Well, the supposed savior of DC, James Gunn, has let everyone know exactly what he thinks of superheroes. And I can't say that I'm all that surprised. Let's discuss. Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Now, I haven't said much about this topic, mostly because I'm pretty disconnected from the superhero genre in general. And that's mostly due to superhero fatigue, which is a very real thing. But also because these movies in general, both from Marvel and DC, just don't offer much in the way of compelling storytelling to me anymore. Now, my initial reaction to the news that James Gunn would be in charge of DC Entertainment moving forward was pretty much fuck that guy, because I literally do not like anything he's ever produced as a director.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
In fact, I find his directing style to be juvenile and cringe. And in theory, he would seem to be the absolute worst candidate to oversee the adaptation of DC stories that are typically seen as being more mature and nuanced. At least more so than your typical cape shit. But then I pumped the brakes for a minute and I thought about it. And when I tried to find a silver lining to this story, I came up with this. James Gunn is a director, not a very good one in my opinion, but a director nonetheless. So maybe at the very least he understands the importance of creative freedom. And that would lead to him allowing other directors to have a vision and execute that vision under the DC banner. With the end goal being that all these movies don't feel like they come off an assembly line. But then I thought about it even more, and based on his social media interactions, he seems like a very egotistical person, similar to a Taika Waititi, for instance, because they both believe themselves to be geniuses and that they can do no wrong when it comes to making movies.
I knew it, I'm surrounded by assholes.
And if Thor: Love and Thunder taught us anything, it's that Taika's shtick isn't going to last forever and is only going to work with general audiences for so long. And I honestly thought that the Suicide Squad failure sent a similar message about James Gunn. To me, guys like this are one-trick ponies. But much to my surprise, in typical Hollywood fashion, James Gunn was awarded for his failures.
It's Hollywood, baby. Who knows what's gonna happen?
And now here we are, and the fate of DC is in his hands. Well, I'm here to tell you that that glimmer of hope that I had that DC might be able to start producing something memorable has now been effectively destroyed by James Gunn comments that have come up from the past. On the subject of superheroes, James Gunn spoke to Vulture in an interview from February 2022, which is in all fairness way before he got the job. In this interview, he said, quote, "I love superheroes. I also think that they are the dumbest thing that has ever existed." That's kind of an interesting quote from somebody who is now in charge of adapting said superheroes. He continued, "The fact that we take these things seriously as adults is ridiculous because people really would look at you like they look at Peacemaker. When he walks into Fennel Fields wearing a costume, what's wrong with you? You think that's cool? You're a maniac." James Gunn furthers the Taika Waititi comparisons by clearly stating that people shouldn't take this stuff too seriously and nothing really matters. Basically saying, go outside and touch grass, you fucking nerd.
Son of a bitch.
He strikes me as the type of guy who takes pleasure in destroying fans' ideas of what these characters could be. Deconstructing superheroes, but not in a thought-provoking way, but in a way that effectively turns them into the joke that he views them as. He continues, "Treating these people like gods is like, what? I have a hard time imagining a guy who's really serious and wants revenge, making a costume for himself and putting black around his eyes so his skin doesn't show when you look him in the face." For those not paying attention, all of that I just read was a thinly veiled shot at both Zack Snyder and Matt Reeves, as well as the very idea that the character of Batman represents.
Now you wanna get nuts? Come on! Let's get nuts.
Superheroes have always been referenced as our modern day gods, with comics being the medium in which these legends are passed down from generation to generation. The only difference is now the medium has become movies. This is how people who actually give a shit about these characters view them. Clearly not people like James Gunn. To me, Matt Reeves made the only superhero movie this year worth watching because it actually took the idea seriously, and apparently James Gunn thinks that that is ridiculous. You know who took superheroes seriously? Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale. And they created possibly the greatest comic book movie ever made. They crafted a respected film that appealed to both non-comic book fans and comic book fans alike. And honestly, that's how these stories should be treated when you're introducing them into a new medium.
Because it's all part of the plan.
And before some troll says it in the fucking comments, no, I'm not saying that every superhero movie needs to be dark and serious. Taking the characters seriously involves creating a tone for their movie that fits them. In other words, I don't want to see Superman delivering dick jokes.
Ha ha, very funny, motherfucker!
It basically means not turning these characters into a joke, and at least trying to tell a story that connects with people on a deeper level. Some of us want more than just a theme park ride experience for these movies. And right now, I don't think that James Gunn is capable of delivering that. He finishes it all off with, quote, "The silliness is what is real." Yes, the concept of a guy running around the city in his tights fighting crime does sound silly on the surface level. But it's your job as a creative mind to make people buy into that concept. Like Christopher Nolan did, or like Sam Raimi did. Saying the whole idea of superheroes is ridiculous says more about James Gunn's creative mind than it says about the superhero genre in general.
That makes sense.
Now this is nothing new. We know that Hollywood only looks at these characters as vessels to make more money. There's no love or care put into them, and no desire to create something meaningful with them. In my mind, WB swapped out one incompetent creative team for another, and I'm sure the plan is to recreate the MCU formula in the new DCU, which doesn't say much for films like The Batman 2 or Joker 2. Probably the only two films that I actually had any kind of interest in the entire genre. And why? Because they were both director-driven. It feels like the new DCU is on its way to becoming just as formulaic and forgettable as the modern MCU is.
That's right, it stinks!
Playing catch-up like they always do, instead of having their own vision for what these things could be and sticking with it. They want to be a copycat, they want to be a follower, and it makes me sick to my fucking stomach every time I see it happening. Mostly because they are capable of so much more. They are capable of delivering mind-blowing standalone films, yet they seem to be obsessed with this shared universe that Marvel has. And if I've said it once, I've said it a million times, shared universes are nothing but a burden on creativity. I have zero faith in James Gunn as a lead creative mind, because I think his creative influence is very limited, and I think these comments just reinforce that.
Y'all be cool. Right on.